He ruled Libya for 42 years, survived assassination attempts, defied the most powerful nations on earth. Yet his story didn't end in exile or a courtroom. In October 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was pulled from a drainage pipe, captured alive, and killed by his own people. How does a poor Bedouin boy rise to absolute power only to lose everything in the most public collapse imaginable? Because what happened between those two moments explains not just Gaddafi, but why Libya still hasn't recovered today. This is the rise and the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Mohammed Abu Minyar al-Gaddafi was born in 1942 in a tent near the Libyan town of Sirte. His family were Bedouins, nomadic desert people with little wealth, no electricity, and no political power. Libya at the time was a poor, colonized nation, recently freed from Italian rule and ruled by King Idris, a monarch backed by Western powers. Young Gaddafi grew up listening to stories of Arab unity, anti-colonial resistance, and the humiliation of foreign control. He idolized Gamal Abdel Nasser, Egypt's revolutionary leader who defied the West and nationalized the Suez Canal. By his teenage years, Gaddafi wasn't dreaming of riches. He was dreaming of revolution. Gaddafi's childhood didn't prepare him for luxury. It prepared him for resentment. And when that resentment found discipline, weapons, and opportunity, it didn't stay an idea for long. Gaddafi joined the military academy, where he secretly formed a group of like-minded officers. On September 1, 1969, while King Idris was abroad, Gaddafi and his allies launched a bloodless coup. The coup worked, the king was gone, and Libya woke up to a new leader, just 27 years old. But removing a ruler is easy. The real question is what happens after you take power. Almost immediately, he expelled foreign military bases, nationalized oil companies, used oil money to fund housing, healthcare, and education. To many Libyans, he was a hero, a man who took Libya's wealth back from the West. But this was only the beginning. At first, Gaddafi looked like a hero. Oil money returned to the people. Foreign powers were pushed out. But Gaddafi didn't just want control of Libya's resources. He wanted control of how people thought. And that's when he introduced something no one had seen before. His own system called the Third Universal Theory, explained in his famous Green Book. He claimed political parties were corrupt. Elections were lies. The people should rule directly through people's committees. In reality, power flowed only upward to Gaddafi. He renamed Libya the Jamahiriya, meaning state of the masses. But criticizing the leader became dangerous. Public executions were broadcast on TV. Opposition voices disappeared. Fear slowly replaced hope. By the 1980s, Gaddafi had become an international outlaw. He funded militant groups, revolutionary movements, anti-Western organizations. Gaddafi claimed he had solved democracy, but outside Libya, world leaders weren't convinced. In fact, his actions would soon put him on a direct causeway with the most powerful military on earth. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. The US labeled Libya a state sponsor of terrorism. In 1986, after a bombing in Berlin linked to Libyan agents, the US launched airstrikes on Tripoli. One of the bombs hit Gaddafi's home. He survived, but his adopted daughter was killed. From that moment on, Gaddafi became even more paranoid and even more brutal. In 1988, Pan Am Flight 138 exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, killing 270 people. Investigations pointed to Libyan intelligence agents. The bombs stopped falling. Gaddafi survived again. But this time, the damage wasn't just physical, because what came next wouldn't arrive by airstrike. It would arrive through sanctions, isolation, and economic collapse. the ordinary Libyans suffered deeply. Oil money dried up, infrastructure decayed, and resentment quietly grew. For years, Libya was cut off from the world. But after 9/11, something unexpected happened. The man once labeled an international enemy suddenly became useful, and Gaddafi was willing to change just enough. He made a shocking move. He accepted responsibility for Lockerbie, paid compensation to victims, gave up weapons of mass destruction. Suddenly, Western leaders welcomed him back. He shook hands with Tony Blair, Nicolas Sarkozy, Italian prime ministers. For a moment, it seemed like Gaddafi had reinvented himself. But inside Libya, corruption remained. Power stayed concentrated, and the people were growing restless. On the surface, Libya looked stable again, but beneath that stability was anger quietly building. And in 2011, one spark would ignite everything Gaddafi spent 40 decades trying to control. In 2011, protests erupted across the Arab world. Libya was no exception. What began as demonstrations quickly turned into armed rebellion. Gaddafi responded with force. In a now infamous speech, he vowed to hunt protesters house to house. NATO intervened. Rebels advanced. His inner circle collapsed. After 42 years, Gaddafi was losing control. Cities fell, allies vanished, and the man who once ruled from a palace was suddenly running for his life. His story was about to end, not with a speech, but in silence. On October 20th, 2011, Gaddafi tried to flee Sirte. His convoy was bombed and he desperately hid in a drainage pipe. But that did not rescue him. Captured alive, beaten, and killed by his own people. The images shocked the world. A ruler who once controlled billions ended his life powerless, exposed, and alone. Gaddafi was gone, but Libya's problems didn't disappear with him. In fact, some argue they only began. To some Libyans, Gaddafi is remembered as a nationalist, a man who stood up to the West. To others, he was a tyrant, a dictator who crushed freedom. Today, Libya remains unstable, still paying the price of his rule. So was Muammar Gaddafi a revolutionary who lost his way, or a warning about what happens when one man holds power for too long? And if you think this story is shocking, wait until you see what happened next in the Middle East.